Hello and welcome back, guys. This is Ibrahim Quraishi here, and today I'm presenting to you what's new in VMware vSAN 7 Update 1. Special thanks to Amanda Lennon for sharing this slides with me. I was a part of VMware Bloggers Early Access program, and she has given me permission to present this slides to you on YouTube on my channel. And special thanks to Corey Romero for inviting me in the VMware Bloggers Early Access Program. For those of you who do not know me, I am Ibrahim Quraishi and my blog is agileops.co.uk, and my Twitter handle is @Ibrahim Quraishi. So just to give it to you, the information was presented by Pete Collier, technical marketing guy from VMware, and it was an in-depth presentation. I'll try and cover most of the highlights which I think is important, and obviously I'll back it up with my blog. There's a lot of other guys who are experts who were invited, and they have been publishing blogs around this as well, so be sure to check it out. I will try to add some good blog posts in my description as well. Okay, so as a fundamental vSAN, I hope you all know vSAN is a hyperconverged infrastructure. Basically, it has the compute, the CPU and memory, and also it has the storage within it. Okay, so that is a hyperconverged environment. Usually on a VMware environment, we have the compute, which is the CPU and memory, which runs on the blades or the servers, and then the storage is presented from a shared storage, dedicated like EMC, NetApp, or Tripa, something like that. But the hyperconverged, the whole idea is you have everything built in the same unit, so you have your storage within there as well. So it's basically like going back to the old school where you have server and a bunch of disk along with it, and then you use vSAN. You license your vSphere with vSAN, and then basically vSAN then creates disk groups, and then it does the copying of data, which basically does either mirroring or RAID 5 or RAID 6 to basically make sure you have written copy of your data which you are running on it. Now the core platform, as you know, I lost my mouse, as we all know, is vSphere, and the capabilities you get is you have the hyperconverged infrastructure. Now the full stack, which is in the center, which we can see here, is HCI, which is the HCI, which includes the VMware Cloud Foundation, which is VCF4. Now, as you can see, along with the core HCI platform, which has the vSphere and the vSAN, you have the SDDC manager, the Kubernetes, and we have obviously got the Tanzu as well when running Kubernetes. We have vRealize suite and the NSX and everything. So this is the entire SDDC bundle which VMware offers as a comprehensive private cloud running in your organization. Now, going on the right, we have hybrid cloud, which is the offering which you can get if you want to have a private and a public cloud setup. So you have your on-prem, and then you can have a managed service provider, which can be your VMware on AWS, which is offered by AWS, or IBM Cloud, Azure, and also Google Cloud. So you can choose one of these provider, and you get the entire stack which we are getting here over here. So that basically is the hybrid cloud model, which comes with the public and the private offering. Okay, let's move on. Now the focus here, and I want to stress this a little bit, that this release is having a lot of improvements, a lot of enhancement, not just from the point of view of performance, but usability, the operational side, and the features. So it's a lot of features which has been bundled in, and VMware is truly listening to their customers and bringing those changes within their product, which is really amazing. Now, as we have seen in the past as well, the main focus this year, 2020, I think, is the drive for developers to be able to self-service or self-provision their own infrastructure. So obviously this is the main agenda for this year, I guess. That's kind of given with the last release as well. So deliver developer ready infrastructure. So that is what vSAN is giving. So efficient delivery of services for cloud and native applications. So if you remember, obviously this slide basically covers a little bit of how we can use vSAN and then leverage the Kubernetes framework. Now, and what we have to remember is this is available through VCF with Tanzu and vSign Enterprise. You also get, this is a new framework for integration with stateful applications. Obviously it can be something like MongoDB, or the actual persistent data is stored, and that basically is also available here, the data persistent platform, which is what they are calling. So VMware vSAN data persistent platform, DPP. The another thing which I want to say is this platform has to be backed up by a third party plugin, and some of the providers, partners which are from VMware are mentioned here, like Dell EMC is here, and some others are like Datastar, CSI. So these are some of the partner, and VMware will at due course will release more partners who will be supporting this environment. So remember that. Okay, so optimize total cost of ownership for modern applications on vSAN. So again, we are going to leverage the same vSAN, and we have this Kubernetes running workload, Kubernetes and workload running, modern application which can be, containerized, or which can be used for so many other things, and they basically are going to be on non-replicative persistent volumes. This again comes with reduced raw storage overhead for cloud native stateful apps, so we do not need to use a lot of storage. The benefits, of course, is easy manage and consume using vSAN CNS control plane, which basically we saw in the previous slides as well, the CNS side which was there. Now again, the availability available only as part of vSAN data persistent platform, which is this one as it says here, and consumes through customized vSAN ready new nodes. So it has to be vSAN ready nodes. Also requires the partner solution Kubernetes operator as a part of vSAN DPP, which I mentioned, the third party plugin. This is what it is referring to at this moment. Okay, so moving on. So we have extended volumes in TKG guest clusters, which is the Tanzu Kubernetes volume health for TKG supervisor, and the guest cluster available in both guest and supervisor clusters. So this basically is kind of self-healing. It basically checks out what the issues are happening, and then basically presents the issues in this PV health, which we are seeing here. And of course, the new thing here which I would like to highlight is vVols. So right now vSAN does support vVols, which is a good thing. So vVols was not supported, so now the support for vVols is here. Another change is about scaling out, so we can scale out without any compromise. So having an having a platform which is hyper converged, and having a software defined data center is a big thing. You need to be able to manage it properly. You need to be able to grow it and scale it properly. Now VMware has given you the tools, but in the past, obviously the upgrade was done in certain fashion, and things like that. But now we can, so to accommodate the growth through new topology offerings, so basically scale out without any compromise. So another cool feature is scale out without any compromise, which means basically now you are able to scale out the environment without thinking about the dependencies and stuff like that, and I'll tell you in a minute. Now before that, let's have a look at this one: flexible space efficiency with minimal overhead, compression only, space efficiency option. So basically, uh, we all know that dedupe and compression was included in vSAN, and it was recommended that you start using it from day one, or when you actually start using your vSAN cluster, so you don't avoid any you know downtime and stuff like that. Now what they have done is they have again listened to the service providers, I guess, the customers who are managed service provider most of the time. um, they there was a demand of having compression isolated from deduplication, because obviously some of the customers, they didn't wanted to, they didn't get a massive amount of benefit having dedupe turned on with the amount of data which they have, but compression of course would help them. So they are giving a choice over here that you can have um, you know compression and data duplication. And also just want to remind that we also have data at rest encryption now. And also there's another new thing coming up very shortly. I'll show you about encryption, which we'll be seeing going forward. So this basically what it gives us is to reduce failure domains in the event of this failure, and parallel distinct logic per capacity drive for higher throughput. Okay, when I was talking about increase efficiency, the basically it's through improving so increasing the efficiency and the capacity through improve efficiency. So reduce the recommended reserve free capacity for vSAN. So when compared to the earlier version or earlier release vSAN 7, vSAN 7 update 1 has a lot of new features, as I said. So it has something called reserved capacity, and then basically the reserved capacity lets you choose whether you want to. Before this, all this was estimated, and you had to do it by understanding how much data you're storing and all that. So it was basically kind of fixed, and there was something called a slack space which was reserving a 30% in the past. But now it is uh, the 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 slack space is no longer going to be used. What they have done is they have changed a little bit. So they have changed it to a new terminology called host rebuild reserve. So that is for if you want to keep a reserve for a host failure, so you can turn that on, and then you can have a um, well, not slack, because slack is the word they don't want to use anymore, but it's called reserve, right? That's what it says here. So you can reserve the capacity for a host failure. So in an event of host failure, you don't need to worry. So that's what it will do automatically for you. And then also there is an operations reserve, which is operational task. And one thing I wanted to mention was this is not turned on by default, because some of the service provider, they do not want to use that as a procedure. They have their own standard procedures. When there's a host failure, they want to do it with their own methodology. So that is why they have got a option to have it turn it on or off. And this is how it looks basically. So simplified capacity management, operational protect for reserved capacity. So you can see easily here that is the threshold, and basically when you configure it and if you want, this is what you'll see. So this is the host rebuild reserve, which is a light gray part here, and then the operations reserve, which is the darker gray here. And then the configuration is simple as that. You can have this radio button turned off and on. So if you want to keep the operation reserve, you can turn it on. You can have the host reserve, you can turn it on. And as I said, with service providers, sometimes they do not want to have it on. For host rebuild reserve, they can turn it off again, and they can follow their own standard procedures, how they want to follow when there is a host failure. So that is a really cool feature which I think which has been implemented, and especially having the flexibility for the customer to choose there is really awesome. So the next thing we have is improve efficiency through witness host consolidation. So you do no longer have the requirement for having individual witnesses. So you can have a assigned share witness, which saves a lot of infrastructure, I guess. Obviously that is cost money, right, at the end of the day. So you have shared witness for 2 node vSAN deployments, and the share witness host appliance across multiple or 2 node vSAN clusters. So we can have up to 64 2 node clusters per shared witness. Just to give you a tip here, so the maximum cluster size is still 64, but in the new release of vSphere 7 update 1, the maximum host you can add now has gone up to 96, I think, but it doesn't apply to vSAN yet. So just remember that. So the update to maximum host in a cluster can go up to 96, but it doesn't apply to vSAN. So vSAN still is at 64 nodes, really. Okay. And then new UI for managing witness host appliance to the cluster relationship. So that's another new feature which is there, and reduce operational and technical overhead. Of course, because obviously we are going to have a shared witness now, and we no longer have to keep some multiple witnesses, right? Clusters to maintain. Okay, so this is the bit I love. Obviously, operation side. Obviously, that is the daily stuff which all VI admins need to deal with, which we need to check the performance and all that. So improve resilience and flexibility with operations, which is cool, and let's see how we get that. So enhance durability during maintenance mode. Durability of change data during maintenance operations. So basically what this basically means is what that basically means is you have a failed host, and you have a host here, so you do not need to worry about your data. What will happen is all the changes which are going to be there for this particular host is going to be written here for you. So the last write committed to the additional host, last write quickly applies to the state components on the host exiting out of the maintenance mode. So this is basically used with this option which they are saying, ensure accessibility, EMM. But that basically what that basically means is FTT is going to be 1. Your fault domain is going to be down to 1, and it will be a mirror copy then, right? Because obviously you have a 4-node cluster, and obviously you have a witness component here. So 3-node cluster, and then there's a host failure, and this node is going to be the EMM, and it basically merges the data. So you have active availability and read and write node still available. The another thing is the faster vSAN host restart. So I'm not too sure whether this is leveraging the what you call the quick reboot feature, but this basically looks like a little bit different to that, because could be it because it says it quizzes and saves to the disk and then restore upon host restart. So obviously I guess one point of view is we don't need to evacuate the host, so we don't need to evacuate the data which is running on the host if it is going to be a quick recovery after maintenance. So reduce time for the cluster, optimized using save and restore workflow to rebuild vSAN in memory metadata. Yeah, and applicable to all graceful host restart scenario. So again, most of the maintenance is graceful restart, right? So it also uses the traditional restart methodology if the host is incapable of supporting new methodologies. So that still is going to be there, the old method how to do the restart when you're doing maintenance. But the good thing is obviously it does have a fast vSAN host restart method. The other thing we have is now we have plugins with Lenovo. So we have improved flexibility and efficiency to host and lifecycle management. So vLCM, which is the lifecycle management. You'll hear a lot about vLCM on this release because it is widely integrated with cloud VCF as well now, which allows you to do all the component updates using the lifecycle manager. So they are doing pretty much the same here. The addition we have is like we have Dell plugin already for vSAN. We have HP. Now Lenovo has come up with their own vendor plugin. So this is what this slides is trying to say. And then obviously they have support for concurrent remediation of up to 64 clusters. One thing we need to remember is still in vSAN, we cannot have more than one host down on maintenance at any point. However, we can have, if we have multiple clusters like I'm showing here 1, 2 and 3, we can have concurrent remediation. We can do this host upgrade, and this host upgrade at the same time, which is what this slide is trying to say. Does it make sense? Yeah. So again, the other thing I wanted to highlight is the support for environments running NSXT version 3.1. So that is also included there. Okay, so coming back to my favorite bit, which I wanted to talk about encryption. So secure. So before we had encryption, data encryption at rest, which is basically you have your data and it is encrypted when it is written to the disk, and at that point it is encrypted. Now what VMware has done is it has introduced data in transit encryption, which is this highlighted here, data in transit encryption, and you can enable and disable it. So that's your choice, and is also you can do the data at rest encryption, which is your choice, which you can enable or disable. So data at rest encryption is done on the disk once the data is written to the disk, and the data in transit encryption is basically done by the host while it is basically sent from one host to other. So while it is traveling from one host to other using this switch, it is encrypted, and it doesn't need any KMS. It uses the internal mechanism, which is the VM kernel cryptographic modules to encrypt the data. So there is no requirement of having a KMS server or anything like that. So this feature can be enabled with or without the data encryption at rest. So you can have both the features turned on, or have both of them turned off, or only have data encryption at transit only, which is like encryption on the flight. So that is a cool feature. Again, I have to stress, VMware has thought a lot about this, and the features which they are giving, they were there. Some of these were there, like I said, data in data at rest was already there. But now what they have done is they have given the user the flexibility to enable and disable it, and not just one. You can, before it was like you have to have both of them, and that was it. But now they have given the user the flexibility. You can have both of them on if you want to. You can have one of them on. You can have the data as rest encryption on and the other one disabled, or you can have data in transit, which is data encryption on flight on, and the other one disabled. So which is really good. So moving on to the next one. This I would love, and I work for a financial institution, and I know this more than anyone. The data is secure, and it needs to be kept that way. And if you're at at a place which is a financial institution, you would come across this as well. You want to wipe the data before you hand it over, or before you do anything with those disks. So what they have done is they have added a simple and secure erasing of data on decommissioned storage. So we all have to decommission storage at some point. It will come to end of life and we have to decommission it, and when we do that we can use this so they have now given two method to do the wipe. One is Power CLI and the second one is API. I guess obviously most of the system administrators will be using Power CLI, which is going to be more easy and approachable for most of them. So once you remove a disk which is no longer required, you can use the Power CLI and wipe the disk. Simple as that. Wipe one or more disks, decommission devices in parallel. So obviously if you are decommissioning bunch of disks, you can do multiple at a time. Is secure, erasing, compliant with the NIST standards, which is why it is mentioned here, and it has this green tick. Applicable to systems using NVMe, SATA, SAS, Flash. Yeah, so pretty much everything. Devices from Dell, HPE, everything. Cool, which is amazing feature. Now, this is another big thing which I think is having the insight to be able to see the metrics inside. So to be honest, the metrics which we are seeing here was a part of VMware Fling. It was basically a IO insight which used to give us in-depth analysis of whether it is a 4K alignment we have, whether it is a sequential read or write. Now what they have done is they have introduced this in the GUI of the vSAN. So we no longer need to have any any third party, well, not third party, it was a Fling from VMware itself, but you can literally have a look at that. We can compare the VMs and we can check that out. Now I'm a bit cautious of the time and I want to quickly go through the remaining features. Fast and efficient comparison of VM performance. So this is another awesome features. Now this basically allows us to select multiple VMs which is on the SAN and on the performance section, and you can compare the performance of and throughput. Now view the performance of multiple VMs on a single location, simplified VM performance and comparison, and overlap performance metrics of multiple VMs. So this is all what we can do. IOPS, throughput, latency, and congestions and outstanding IOPS. So everything we can drill down to each one of them. We can select multiple of them and see whether it one particular VM started using more throughput, or one particular VM saw latency because the other one started behaving differently. So all that can be done. Okay, so this is another great feature. VMware vSAN allows you to restrict the VOPS. So we can quickly identify IOPS limit enforced and affects and we can actually use this feature to see what is the effect of limiting these IOPS. So quite a lot of ISP, they try to they do not allow a VM to use a certain go beyond a certain IOPS or a certain limit of IOPS. So when they introduce this, basically what may happen is obviously they can see another latency somewhere else, or sometimes it can be hard to analyze whether, because we are asking vSAN to introduce this IOPS limit, is it actually causing a knock-on effect on something else running in the environment. So this is why what they have done is they have introduced this monitor now, and now you can see IOPS limit is 400, yeah, pretty much for this VMDK, which is this. And now with this we can see easily latency granted by IOPS limit enforcement, and that is basically highlighted to us here. And then we can easily see what is the effect of introducing that IOPS limit on particular VM. Performance graphs will be presented 3 overlapping metrics, as you can see here: IOPS limit, normalized IOPS, and latency. Graph will highlight period of IOPS limited, enforced, and associated latency. So I think that's a good feature, because obviously I assume most of the service providers does use it because they want to limit IOPS for certain customers, and then they want to see the effect of doing that, or using these features. Again, We have VPAT compliant for vSAN, which is, we can use the compliance, which can do, which security is favorite topic for most of us at some point when it comes to compliance, right? So configuration, we can make sure the configuration, the management and monitoring, everything is compliant. So that is VPAT compliance for vSAN. So that is there, already introduced in this, and it has an improved UI as well. And this slide basically shows the checks of simulation. So it basically more exhaustive pre-checks improve operations, data migration and pre-checks can be done. Now I want to quickly talk a little bit on extended file services. One cool feature is now we can have NFS and SMB as well. So all new support for SMB version 2.1 and version 3, Kerberos for NFS and Active Directory SMB as well. Scalability improvement is there, up to 32 hosts per cluster contributes to processing of the file system. So basically you can have vSAN to be able to use your um, shares as well. And then we have the health checks and capacity view to accommodate these features. And that's about it. It's a lot of slides which I have went through, and some of them I wasn't pretty much involved in, because some of these features are really new, but you can always go back and check to the VMware vExperts blog and read more about them. So what we have covered, what are the takeaway is, vSAN delivers basically is delivering developer ready infrastructure which gives efficient delivery for services for cloud and native applications, scale without compromise, as I said. So you have the option to scale out, and then a lot of new features added with simplifying operations, the fling with IO, as I said, and then the other features for IO limiting and how we can check that. So those are the cool features, and comparing two VMs and seeing where the bottleneck is, or where the um, how the throughput is also a really good feature. So there's a lot of new improvements which are there, which I like in this version, and extended file support, which we discussed about just now. So thank you very much, guys, for watching the session. I know it's gone over a little bit. I was trying to keep it within half an hour. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts. What are the features you like? Reach out to me if you have any questions on Twitter at Ibrahim Quraishi. Um, and you can always check my blog, and I'm going to post a article around this vSAN as well. And I'm going to do another 2 sessions. One will be on what's new in VCF 4 update, VMware Cloud Foundation 4, and what's new on vSphere 7 update 1 as well. So be sure to check them out as well when you have time, and please consider subscribing if you like my content. And I would say enjoy watching and keep sharing, guys. Cheers, bye.